So, good morning. My name is Dylan. I'm a Deputy Chief with Palmyra Fire Rescue. I am here to speak on behalf of Palmyra Fire Rescue regarding the fire incident that began last night. At approximately 11:48 p.m. on January 19th, the Palmyra Fire Rescue was dispatched for a reported possible shed fire. Upon arrival, our crews encountered heavy fire conditions which required a significant and immediate response. Due to the size and intensity of the fire, we activated the mutual aid box alarm system, commonly known as MABUS. 2 separate MABUS response cards were utilized, with some resources responding up to the 5th alarm level due to passes. In addition, we requested a strike team of water tenders from Dane County to support sustained fire suppression efforts. Crews remain on scene at this time, continuing to work toward full extinguishment. Currently, we estimate the fire is approximately 90% extinguished. Operations have been especially challenging due to sub-freezing temperatures, which have caused equipment and water supply lines to freeze. Despite these conditions, crews have continued to operate safely and effectively. I am very happy to report that there have been no injuries reported to us, thanks to the safe and professional actions of firefighters and emergency personnel on the scene. While our crews have been committed to this incident, mutual aid departments have staffed our station, ensuring that emergency services remained fully available to the Palmyra community throughout the response. We are extremely grateful for the support of our mutual aid partners and the professionalism displayed by everyone involved.
About how many fire crews were out there, personnel?
So I do not have an exact number right now, but we're approximately about 30 fire departments responded to this incident.
And you mentioned that obviously the weather had a big impact. What does that specifically impact? Does it slow down your time in managing the fire? What does that affect most?
So it does slow down our time when it comes to even dragging hose lines. No matter what with fire engines, they leak a little bit of water as you're going. When you have 0-degree weather out there with a little bit of a wind chill, every drop of water that hits the ground turns into sheer ice. Now when you're running tender operations, tanks overflow constantly. It's just what happens. It's the nature of it. And with that, ice again is formed. With these cold conditions as well, then firefighters will actually more rapidly deteriorate as they go on. Now, if we're late spring, it's a nice 60-degree day, my firefighters can go and go and go and go. But once you hit temperatures like this, no matter where you are, you just rapidly deteriorate, and it causes us to have more turnover into rehab.
And make sure I'm saying this correctly. So this was a 5-alarm fire.
So we went over the radio to the 4th alarm, but due to passes that were taken, our dispatch had to take units from our 5th alarm level. We didn't actually have to call for it. And once that 5th alarm, once we knew that the units had been coming from the 5th alarm, is when we called for a strike team of tenders from Dane County. And a strike team is 5 apparatus that are the same apparatus. So we asked for a strike team of tenders. Predetermined departments sent 5 tenders from Dane County to respond to our incident.
Do we have an idea on the extent of the damage? Has it been deemed a total loss at this point?
So with every fire, it is investigated by the authority having jurisdiction. At this time, can't say that because it is an ongoing investigation, but those details will become available to the public as we get them.
What was inside the building? What kind of building was it?
So it was kind of a combination. That entire building was kind of 3 separate areas. It was Anik Lumber and Pal Steel. So the building was set up in 3 different parts. The beginning was like their mercantile place, their shop, that's where they sell things, their offices that were there. And then as you move through the building, you kind of move into lumber storage and then into cold lumber storage, which is where it looks like the fire had originated from. And then attached to that, going past it, is basically cold storage steel for that. So when we arrived on scene, the fire was in the middle of those 3 sections of the building, and it ended up working its way towards the front.
When talking to people in the area, obviously a business that's a huge anchor here, what was it like, arriving on the scene and realizing that that was the structure that was on fire this morning?
So it was a bit of a shock because when we were originally toned out, we were toned out for a possible shed fire, which for us, shed fires and barn fires, it's kind of a surround and drown situation. Barns, no matter how fast we get out the door, they just seem to go up that fast. But showing up and seeing that it was actually the Anik lumber, and then we do fire inspections through them, so we know about the fire load that's inside of them. We knew it was a completely different type of fire than we were expecting, and my decision making on that changed very rapidly as we arrived on scene and realized where it was.
Yeah, to your point, they are a staple in our community. We have a great relationship with them, Palmyra Public Safety, both the police department and the fire department. So it does affect us just a little bit differently when it is such a large business. As you know, in a small community, that means that almost everyone knows everyone and knows somebody that works there. So this will have a ripple effect in our community, in our small community, and it may very well affect other businesses. If that business is affected and their business is impacted negatively, that may impact some of the other communities and some of the other businesses that would affect us longer term than just a fire. So we certainly, our hearts and our thoughts and prayers go out to not only the business and the owners of the business, but also those that work there and the families that are affected. Many of them live right here in our community, those that are employed there, so it certainly does have an impact on our small little community.
Total devastation with the facility, a total loss?
Oh, at least, and I can let the deputy chief speak to that, but at least the office area, mercantile area, and a large portion of the lumber area are a total loss. There are some portions of the building that were able to be saved. Majority of those, though, are where the steel was and still is. So am I speaking correctly with those facts? So just wanted to double check that I had those facts correct. So.
Yep.
Any injuries on your firefighters or any?
No injuries at this time have been reported by any of our firefighters.
And no one was in the building at the time of the fire, is that correct? All right.
Nope.
An off-duty police officer was returning home from his shift, second shift from another jurisdiction that lives in this community, and noticed the fire and called it in to 911. So we appreciate that officer and the fact that anyone dials 911 when they see something out of place. Who's to say that time of night in a small community that fire could have burned a lot longer and been a lot more devastating. So we're thankful for a citizen that was paying attention and an officer coming home from shift that called that into 911 and reported that fire. So within just about 10 minutes of that first 911 call, our crews were on scene and fighting the fire aggressively. So we appreciate that call by the officer. So.
Yes, and have you guys been in contact, communications with the owners? Have you heard from them about what's next after this loss?
As of now, no. Those types of calls usually occur once we have completed our tasks on scene. Like I said, our crews are still actively out there fighting that fire. At this point, it's a lot of what we call overhaul, where we've gotten the majority of the fire out. Now it's a matter of digging around, finding the hot spots, and putting those out as well. We do have 2 backhoes that are there as well that are currently digging through that rubble to try to find those hot spots to assist firefighters.
And to piggyback on that, there have been some staff that have been coming and going from the scene, some of the employees from the business that burned, and they have been obviously devastated and showing that and commenting on how devastated they are to see their place of work gone. And so they have been coming and going, but we have not had any, as Deputy Chief said, any official contact with them as of yet. As soon as the Deputy Chief said, the fire is brought fully under control and we can use our resources to then make notifications and make that contact, we will do that. From a small department standpoint, our resources are extremely limited, so we have to pretty much utilize all of our resources now for tactical operations and fighting the fire and trying to extinguish, and as the Chief mentioned, overhaul operations, and then once that completes, we can start some of the administrative tasks. So.
Did the landscape or geography bring any troubles? I noticed that like the hill behind the building, I think, or the house, there was like a hill. Did that bring any troubles at all?
Yes, it did. It brought the hill next to it, which would be to the south of it. It brought troubles, but it actually also assisted us because firefighters on that side, which that's one of our main points that they're fighting from right now, since it's an elevated position, they're actually able to see over that metal and the roof that had collapsed. They can see over that and they could hit the fire from above it. That house that was right there, obviously we were worried about that exposure, So crews protected it as best they can. As of now, I'm not aware of any damage, if any, occurred to that house. And then we also had to worry about the railroad tracks to our north. One of the first things that was done on scene was dispatch contacted the railroad company to shut that down. Railroad company is more than happy to help crews when they're doing that kind of stuff. They're very understanding. And just the outbuildings also made it a little difficult to navigate through their property. Because they're such a large business, they have so much product that it just, we were able to get around it though. We figured it out.
Massive. Okay,
No, go ahead.
There you go. You go.
The house where people, told to evacuate out of precaution at all in that home?
So at the time, I am not aware of any evacuations that had occurred. I did touch base with the homeowner, but that occurred. We saw him about 5 hours after it had occurred. So,
How massive is this facility? Like square miles or square feet or anything like that?
Overall
yeah.
facility is blocks.
It's
blocks.
big.
It encompasses several village blocks.
Okay.
It is a massive operation. They even have a separate location
Yep.
just outside the village in the township. So it is a large business. I would say that the portion affected would probably be almost a half a block to a city block.
I was gonna say, we're looking at least, with the hand lines that were pulled, we're looking at least a 400 or 500 foot building and about easily 100 foot across. Very large footprint. And I'm glad that he brought up their property that's out on 106. We were made aware that they had made a social media post that is where their company is going to move to in the interim while they figure everything out, but that Pal Steel and Annick Lumber will stay open, but their offices and landlines and everything will be moved over to their facility on 106 over by the airport.
And you talked a little bit about how difficult it is with the cold weather and
Mhm.
to police switch out firefighters, but what other things are done for those first responders in the moments? Is it just switching out, or do you wear different gear or anything like that?
So we call it rehab. Depending on what level we're at, we have a very good entity that we use, the Salvation Army. They have a very large response truck that shows up. They have coffee, hot chocolate. They feed the firefighters. We're very thankful for the rehab units that come and do that. And then on types of calls like this, depending on how cold the firefighters are getting, we also have resources where we could call in a school bus if we need to for them to sit on it. Luckily, we were able to stage most vehicles near the scene, so when crews rotated through rehab, they basically went back to their vehicle to warm up, and then that was back in our staging area. And then as those crews get called up, they come out of the warmth and they go back into it, and it's just a circle.
One of the challenges in a big fire or big police incident in cold weather is, as you mentioned, keeping personnel warm. And so that's one of the reasons for the multiple alarms, is to have extra resources, because we know that the firefighters and first responders will likely get cold and tired more quickly in inclement weather like the cold weather that we're experiencing. So Command on Scene, which Dylan was a part of, made the decision very early on to have extra firefighters called there and more alarms, so they could have more of a rotation in and out of warm vehicles, so the firefighters could fight fires longer and stay safe from hypothermia and the elements. So certainly grateful that they thought of that in advance and right away at the early onset of the incident. That helped the firefighters not become hypothermic and get more prone or become more prone to injury. So that's the kind of things that we plan for and think of in a cold weather event, or for that matter in any inclement weather.
And then as far as this fire itself, have, to your guys' knowledge, had a fire of this size in the history of the village or in recent years?
We have had previous fires that were to this scale. The most recent that I am aware of is the structure fire that occurred at the egg farm. One of their poultry barns caught flame, and it was about this size of type of call, and it's just as long of hours, and yep.
I've worked for the village of Palmyra for about a decade, and this would be the second largest fire in the last decade, to my knowledge, for the village of Palmyra, and for that matter, the surrounding area. So this ranks right up there as one of the biggest ones, and as the deputy chief mentioned, probably gives the very good competition to the chicken farm fire that was also very large.
I guess the material in the shed, wood and steel, did that pose or add any challenge? I know when we spoke on scene, it was like a lot of steam. Did the steam bring any issues?
So all steam really does is it points us in the direction of the hot spots, causes a little bit of visibility issues. But with any kind of commercial structure like that where they sell such a flammable product and in such quantities, I mean, Anik Lumber and Pal Steel is that big for a reason. They sell that much stuff. But with that comes heavier fire load. Depending on how packed together those bundles are, just creates even more heat. And being in a steel structure like it was, it just basically turns into an oven, and it just holds in as much heat as humanly possible, which makes the fire even hotter, which makes it cause more damage.
We anticipate, the fire crews anticipate, that we'll likely be at the location, at the scene of this fire throughout the whole entire day, maybe even into dark and evening hours, just because a fire of this size and magnitude with the product that was in the building, it will continue to kindle, and this has a high probability of what we call a rekindle as well. So crews will do their best to pick through all of the lumber and all the debris to try to knock it down as much as possible and put the fire out, but more than likely we will be there for some time, just moving the debris and the wood and other things around and trying to put out hot spots. It's a pretty typical challenge in these type of fires.
And then, obviously roads are blocked off this morning as you guys were working on the scene. Will those same spaces continue to be blocked off? Should people take alternate routes throughout the day?
Most likely, yes, because those roads are blocked off for the community safety, but for our safety as well. More often than not, people get distracted when they're coming through emergency scenes. I bet all of us have been guilty of that at some point. And people don't pay attention. They run over fire hoses. They could hit one of our personnel. So yeah, around the immediate area of the structure, while they're working out there, those roads will remain closed.
And to piggyback on what the deputy chief said, the community can expect probably for the next 12 to 24 hours some type of impact of roads being closed in the immediate area for the safety of the first responders that will remain in the area. And also we have severe inclement weather, and that's going to continue, it looks like, for many days. That poses a challenge, even though our DPW has been out salting the roads since the early onset of this fire. Salt is hard to come by and also doesn't work as well in these extreme temperatures. And with the fire trucks that will remain on scene and continue to be back and forth, roads are going to be impacted. There will be ice. So we're going to try to keep some of those nearby and immediate roads closed down for safety purposes.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I think it's important for me to thank, and for the deputy chief to thank, all of our surrounding first responders and the communities that helped us out and assisted on this fire. We could not have accomplished the quick knockdown of the fire without the neighboring agencies. As you've heard and you've been around other fires, we need our mutual aid companies and the MABUS system in order to put out a fire of this size and magnitude. So we want to thank all of those communities, 30 plus communities that sent firefighters, EMTs, and first responders to help us fight this fire. And of course, thank you to those here at the Village of Palmyra Public Safety that stayed up all night and through the inclement weather to fight this fire. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
At WMTV, 15 News to your Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, or Google TV today, and never miss a moment of 15 News Plus.